which became buoyant because it was basically a bubble of hot air, rose to the top of the atmosphere and turned into this black spot. And he made all of these claims. Why weren't the professional astronomers interested in this? Well, black spots pop up on Jupiter all the time, and then they go away. And nobody knows what causes them. They have theories, but they happen all the time. And so astronomers are like, well, okay, it's another black spot. That's fine. He says, why aren't there any Hubble images of this? And I love it when people claim that, because I always know immediately why there are no Hubble images of it. There are two reasons in this case. One is that these things come and go so quickly that they can't just, you just don't call up Sean O'Keefe, the head of NASA, and say, hey, can you swing Hubble over to Jupiter right now? And take a picture of it. It actually takes several weeks, a couple of weeks to get Hubble to move. If there's a huge emergency, you could move it in like 2 days. Okay? It's not like this thing is just an amateur telescope you can move around. This thing takes some time to move. And so that was one reason. The other reason is that when this spot appeared, Jupiter was too close to the sun. Hubble has very stringent limits on how close it can point to the sun because it can damage some of the instruments by pointing at the brightest object in the solar system. Jupiter was too close, so they didn't get Hubble images. I actually called a couple of professional astronomers. I just called them up. Hoagland evidently doesn't have a phone. Couldn't just go and call up someone like Heidi Hamill who studies Jupiter. And I said, what's going on with these black spots? And she said, I don't know. There's a black spot on Jupiter? So it's not like they were suppressing this information. They didn't even know. All right. So this picture is great because Hoagland was talking about how here's the black spot here. This is from his website, by the way. Here's the black spot here. Well, what's interesting is that, look, here is Jupiter's equator at 0 degrees. Okay. There's the black spot at about 10 degrees north latitude on Jupiter. Well, Galileo actually entered Jupiter right on the equator. It was less than a degree off the equator. So even Hoagland is saying that the black splotch is about 9 or 10 degrees north of where Galileo went in. To make sure that you understand what this means, here is a blow-up of that black splotch. Here is the equator here. This is where Galileo went in. Okay? Jupiter is, in fact, a very large planet. Okay? This may not look like very much, but it is about 10,000-mile difference. That plume would go up straight, but it's not going to move over this way 10,000 miles like it's like, oh, I like it over here. The sunlight's a little better. I'm going to pop up over here. So even on Hoagland's own webpage, he has the seeds of his own destruction. And that doesn't surprise me at all, because most of these pseudoscientists shoot themselves in the foot with their own claims. So this is just a silly claim. Hoagland was all over the radio. He was on Coast to Coast AM talking about this. I had the pleasure of being on a week later. I love going on after these guys because I can listen to what they're saying and then say, well, it turns out everything you just heard was crap. And I actually used that word a couple of times. And so this, this is just a complete non-event. And so, this was all just more silliness on the part of Hoagland. But luckily, he's a multicultural, multidimensional guy. He can go from one planet to the next. He understands diversity. And so now we've got Mars. Here we have a picture of Johnny Five on Mars. Good, some of you know that reference. No, disassemble. What was the name of that movie? Short Circuit, that's right. Another Steve Gutenberg Oscar. He was robbed. NASA is the second success that NASA has been glowing in recently is the successful landing of Spirit on Mars. And in 2 weeks, the second rover, Opportunity, which is a twin of that one, will land on Mars. As S.R. Haddon said in the movie Contact, it's just the idea of government spending is why buy one thing when you can buy two for twice the price? So we're getting a second one on there. And now you may remember that the United Kingdom had launched the Mars Express with the Beagle lander, which did not work. And everybody's going on. All the conspiracy theorists are talking about the Beagle was a failure. Clearly, something about Mars is destroying these probes. And I'm thinking, but there's like a whole orbiter that they put up there too, that's taking these dynamite pictures of Mars that they that they haven't really done much with yet. But the lander was just one small part of that. But of course, it was NASA that shot down the Beagle, right? Because we don't want them knowing about stuff, right? But then why did we land our rover on Mars? It just doesn't make any sense. But this is actually a pretty good success story. I was up late watching this thing land, and the 6 minutes that thing after it had landed, that we were waiting for the signal, and then they got the signal. It was like, yes, got it there. And it's now returning these dynamite pictures that you've seen of rocks. And this is actually something I was worried about after the Pathfinder mission a few years back. which also just took pictures of rocks, but these were so cool because it's a rover on Mars. But now it's another rover on Mars, and it's more rocks, so it's not quite as sexy. But it's still pretty cool. They've got really awesome instruments on this thing. It actually can take a picture of itself, and this is actually the lander. These are the pedals that unfolded when the thing landed, and you can see the airbags as it bounced down. You've probably seen the movie Red Planet with Val Kilmer, where they actually dropped onto the planet and bounced around. I mean, that's what this thing did. It unfolded, the bags deflated, and it was able to get this picture. And it took this picture of Mars. You know, there it is, the surface of Mars, right? Or is it? Well, if you listen to Hoagland, and I recommend you do, because it will tell you why we are all here together. Once again, we have Richard Hoagland to the rescue. Once again, that's him on the right. For those of you who don't know who this man is, Richard Hoagland, Richard Hoagland, that's a G, not an X there, is probably most famous or infamous for saying that there's a giant hill on Mars, which looks like a face, okay? In fact, again, this is true. Here's a picture of it. It looks like a face. The original Viking pictures that this comes from, there's a big photograph, and you can see it, and somebody had written the word face on it with an exclamation point. I would have done the same thing if I were getting pictures back from an orbiter around Mars that had a picture of a face on it, okay? When I was working on Hubble images years ago, we got a picture of two galaxies. I actually should have put this in the talk. We had an edge-on galaxy and a face-on galaxy, just like this. It looked for all the world like the Starship Enterprise coming at you, okay? And you can search for it on my website. I've got it someplace. I talk about nature imitating art, right? And it looks like the Enterprise. I've seen smiley faces. We saw Jeannie's picture of the Discovery Institute's, that hourglass nebula picture that they're using for their symbol. Looks like it has an eye in the center. And I meant to mention to you, Jeannie, that's actually called the Eye of God. I think that's why why the Discovery Institute is using that symbol. Although maybe the FU nebula would have been a better choice. But it does look like a face, and this is how Hoagland has made his fame. He's got a book out about it, and he says that the face is surrounded by a city, and there are pyramids and barracks, and he sees all sorts of things by basically taking these pictures, making them into JPEGs, which is the best way to maintain the integrity of a picture. For those of you who don't know, JPEGs really screw up a picture. They introduce all sorts of artifacts, and I love that word because he's saying, there are artifacts in this picture. And I'm saying, yes, in fact, there are artifacts, but I think we're talking about two different meanings of the word, okay? He's talking about, artificial things, and we're talking about just, computer-induced things. But he sees all these pictures, and I think it also helps to, but that's a little different. And so he is claiming, and this stuff is great, and believe me, the conspiracy garbage is flying full speed into the fan with this Mars stuff. There are claims that the pictures are being faked on purpose for color purposes, that the sky of Mars is actually blue, but NASA is changing the color, hue, and intensity of these pictures to make the sky look red. Okay, this is actually an interesting claim, and I'm going to look into this a little more because I'm not sure. There's a lot of controversy because the Viking lander back in the 70s, the first image they got was of a blue sky. Then NASA changed it to make it look red, because they said they were correcting it. The first picture wasn't color balanced correctly. Of course, the conspiracy theorists are saying, NASA's lying, it's really blue. And it's like, well, why would NASA lie about that? And so some people are saying the sky of Mars should be blue, and the pictures are showing it red. And to be honest, I don't know. I don't know what the color of sky of Mars is. This is still an interesting topic, and I'm going to look into this and probably not come up with anything because it's very complicated, but we'll see. But what's kind of funny is these people are claiming, here's the proof. We've got this picture. In one picture, there's a color chart that they actually put on the landing site so that they could balance the colors. Here, on the color chart, this little swath is blue, but in this next picture, it's red. And I said, yes, because this was taken with one camera that looks in the visible light, and this one was taken with the infrared camera, which if they actually showed it true color would be black, or possibly, warm to the touch if it's infrared. But, hold your hand up to the screen, and you will feel the heat of Mars. It's like Robert Tilton's Mars website. But, despite the coloration and stuff and all that, these are very difficult arguments. Richard Hoagland, though, wouldn't rely on such weird arguments, would he?